Hey everyone, this is Roland here. Welcome and thank you for being here. And in the past few weeks, I've been catching up with the Olympics and I've been enjoying it so much. And this is actually the first year where I've really got into it. In years past, I would watch a race here and a race there, but never really got into it. Whereas now I am fully in. And I was wondering why I am enjoying it so much. And yes, it's the different disciplines, but more than that, it's been the compelling stories that come with these disciplines. And no matter what I watch, there's always a compelling story. For example, like the BMX freestyling, and on the men's, they had a compelling story. But for the women, there were even more compelling stories. And I want to talk about the winner who took gold, Charlotte Worthington, and she had a compelling story. First of all, this was the debut of BMX freestyling. What an honor now to be an Olympic sport. And then to make it even more exciting, she won gold, which of course is compelling enough, right, on your debut. And but then it doesn't stop there because the way she won it was even more compelling because she successfully attempted a backflip 360, which has never ever been done in any women's BMX freestyle competition ever. So, what an amazing story for Charlotte Worthington. And that got me to think, though, as I watched all these compelling stories, that do we as sons and daughters of God have compelling stories? And of course, the answer is a resounding yes. God has a compelling story for you and me. And it's confirmed in Jeremiah 29 verse 11. And God tells us that he has amazing plans and purposes, a plan not of evil or to harm us. So we can trust that and we can hold on to that. And I think again of my hero, one of my heroes actually, Nick Vujicic, and he was born without legs, he was born without arms, and there was a time where he was struggling to reconcile why he was born, and he even tried to take his life, but God intervened and helped him and saved him and turned his life around. And he has traveled the world, telling his story and encouraging and inspiring millions because of his story. And that for me is a compelling story. And then in the word, I look at Esther, who had no parents, had no parents and was raised by her uncle, but God used her to save an entire nation. And what a compelling story. What a testimony that is. And then I think about Paul, and Paul, as we know, Paul hated Christians, and Paul was killing Christians, and he was putting them into prison. But God stopped him and turned his life around and gave him a new vision, gave him a new purpose. And Paul has been instrumental in the early church and bringing the word to the Gentiles and to the world. So what a compelling story. And for us, I share all these stories because I want to encourage you that you have a compelling story, that God has an amazing plan and a purpose, an amazing plan and purpose for your life. But it doesn't stop there because we are at war and the enemy is trying to stop us from achieving all that God has for us. He doesn't want us to discover and walk in this compelling story that God has for us. So for us, we need to stand up and trust God with all that we have, because that's what the heroes of the faith were doing. That's what these great men and women were doing, and they were trusting God and looking to God to help them. And we need to do the same. We need to stand up and trust God with all that we have to bring to pass what he has promised. And we also need to stand up and do our part and take the steps of faith that God requires us to take, or take the steps of faith God is pointing us to. And that is all part of walking in this compelling story that God has for us, because it's not just going to fall in our laps. It's not just going to happen as we sit around, but it's going to happen as we believe the Lord, as we stand up and do our part. And it's even more interesting because I think of Joshua, and God had a compelling story for him. But let's read what God told him, even though God knew that he would be the one who would be fighting for him, that God would wipe out the giants for him. He would be with him in everything. And he knew that Joshua wouldn't be able to take out the giants on his own. But let's read what God tells him. And let's go to Deuteronomy 31, and I'm going to read from verse 7. And it says, "Then Moses summoned Joshua and said to him in the presence of all Israel, 'Be strong and courageous, for you must go with this people into the land that the Lord swore to their ancestors to give them, and you must divide it among them as their inheritance. The Lord himself goes before you and will be with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged.'" And we know that this is God telling Joshua not to be to be strong and courageous, because in Joshua chapter 1 verse 7, God tells him, "Be strong and very courageous." And then it goes down again. Let's go to verse 9. And God tells him again, "Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go." So God is in commanding Joshua to be strong and to be very courageous and to not be afraid. And that's my encouragement to you, that as you know that God has a compelling story for you, that he has a plan and a purpose for you, it's time to stand up and to trust God, and it's time to stand up and do your part, and to be strong and to be very courageous. And even as you do that, to know that God is with you, that you are not alone, that God is fighting for you, that he has gone before you and is making a way for you, and he will bring to pass the plans and purposes that he has for you, that he will bring to pass this compelling story that he has for you. And that's why you need to trust him. So with that is my encouragement with you. I've come to the end of this episode, and I will see you next week. God bless.